Hello and welcome to the Pals Anime Lounge, the podcast where a bunch of pals get together and talk about anime. I'm host Ace, and joining me are Artura
Hello, everyone.
and Gorzagorz.
Moshi Mosh!
In today's episode, we're talking about Street Fighter II, the movie, which released in 1994. I chose this one because I wanted an excuse to re-watch it, as I used to own it on DVD back when, DVDs first came out. And it was like, oh, we have the rights to this, just put it on DVD. It was animated by Group Attack, the people behind Beautiful Joe, and a bunch of anime based on Street Fighter. Not a lot of really famous stuff, so I didn't really have a lot to put in this section. Street Fighter II, the movie, has a MyAnimeList score of 7.17.
Oh.
The plot follows Ryu as he wanders the world fighting random people before being pulled into a plot by the evil organization Shadow Law. Also, Interpol has a B-plot that goes nowhere. So to start off, what's everyone's experience with Street Fighter?
Well, similarly to Tekken, my experience is Smash Ultimate and the existence of, the fake Kamehameha. It's basically all I know about Street Fighter, really.
Hadouken. Goes?
I played the games. They're good.
Which was your first one?
2, probably, like most people. No one played the first one.
My first Street Fighter game was Street Fighter.
Oh, you're now on, then.
Yeah. I played it on the Amiga, because Street Fighter 2 was released on consoles, and my dad brought home a copy of Street Fighter on the Amiga. I was like, yeah, this is better than the sequel, which is released on everything else and everybody loves. And no, it was pretty bad.
That's such an abrupt ending. I love it.
I've also played, obviously, Street Fighter 2, a couple of the other versions like Turbo or Championship, or probably both. I don't know. And I haven't really played any of the other games apart from those two. I played Puzzle Fighter, but that's kind of not the same thing.
Puzzle Fighter is the best one.
It is, because it's not a fighting game, which I suck at. Have you played many of the games after 2?
I mostly skipped 4. I didn't really play 3, and I played Avenger 5. Yeah, and some
What
like
about the Alpha?
Alpha.
Street Fighter Alpha?
No, that I only learned about it much later on when it wasn't really being played anymore.
It always bugged me that they went from 2 with all of its words before and after Super Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, etc., to Street Fighter Alpha, and then Alpha 2, and then it's like, but where's Street Fighter 3? Why did you go to Alpha?
Prequel. I don't know.
Well, let's talk about Street Fighter 2, the movie. As I say, it came out in 1994, and I owned it on DVD because I liked video games and I liked anime, so of course I was going to buy it, and it was one of the few things available.
Slim pickings, everyone.
When the game was originally translated into English, they transposed the names for Vega, M. Bison, and Balrog. So the subtitles, the subbed version, says the wrong quote unquote names,
Or the correct ones.
or the correct ones.
You mean to tell me that there's some names that are wrong and I had no idea, and now forever I'm gonna get stuck on that?
The guy with a mask is Vega in English.
No. Oh, that's gonna take forever for me to get used to now.
The boxer is Balrog, and the guy in charge is M. Bison. Whereas the guy in charge is Vega in Japan. The guy with the mask is M. Bison, and
the guy with the mask is Barlog.
Yes.
Balrog?
Yes.
I'm confusing him with Corey now.
Now I'm just they don't know what's happening.
There was also another change that I thought was really weird in the dub. Captain Guile, whereas in the sub he's Major Guile.
Well, in Japan, major is equivalent to captain in the US.
I don't think that's true. I think you're lying to me. I did look it up on the wiki, and it is supposed to be Major Guile.
Are you sure not minor Guile? It's minor Guile when you go, Sonic Boom! Sonic Boom! That's the minor Guile. And major Guile is just Guile.
My last fun fact about the dub is Bryan Cranston voices Fei Long, actor of Malcolm in the Middle and Breaking Bad. Bryan Cranston. When I heard him shout in the dub at one point, I was like, "Wait, I recognize that voice." I went and looked it
Oh,
up.
you recognize them.
Yes.
Nicely done.
Did he go? I mean, I didn't see the dub, but did he do the high-pitched "Wada"?
Please tell me he did the high-pitched what up.
Yes.
Oh, good.
I'm so Googling that later.
I mean, he goes pretty high-pitched in Malcolm, so I shouldn't be surprised.
I'm just surprised he didn't start singing, because that's something he likes to do in things.
Watch Malcolm, by the way,
Yes,
everyone.
it's on Disney Plus. You should definitely watch it. Once I
It's
finished
amazing.
once I finished rewatching 30 Rock, I'm going to do a full watch through of Malcolm in the Middle. I've only ever seen bits and pieces throughout the years, but this isn't a Malcolm in the Middle podcast.
It could be.
At one point, it's Malcolm is pretty similar to Street Fighter. Bryan Cranston is in his underwear in front of a mirror, and he's singing, "I'm so full of bacon."
That doesn't sound so. Okay. Okay. So the animation throughout I thought was very good.
I was really pleased with the way it looked, and since I watched it in Japanese, and I thought it sounded really nice. I really liked the way everything was synced because it didn't feel like anything was out of sync or uncomfortable. Not that it happened very often throughout the anime, but I do believe it happened a couple of times in Tekken. I was really pleased with the way it looked and sounded, and honestly, I just loved the high pitched voiced watas that they were throwing around. Like I was like, yeah, my respects for actually, putting the actors through doing that.
Well, the studio also did several other Street Fighter things. They did a kind of ish sequel to this, Street Fighter V2, and they did Street Fighter Alpha, and there was a Street Fighter 2 TV series rather than just this movie. They were set apart from it, so they didn't follow. They weren't set in the same universe. They were just using the same characters. But clearly, they had a lot of talent for creating fighting scenes.
I'd say that animation was a little below the quality of Tekken, because a lot of the times the just camera, I want to say, basically camera feels wrong, and whenever someone jumps in the air or flies up into the air, it looks awkward, and some of the hits don't land. But but it's mostly like the early stuff or filler stuff where they basically try to introduce every single Street Fighter 2 character, even though they have no involvement in the plot. So yeah, I thought it's mostly really good, but there are some bits where it could do with another
Pass.
pass. Yeah, that would be a good word. Have someone look at it and say, this could be timed better, there could be better sound here, that kind of stuff. Abridgers, get on that.
I didn't actually look to see if this had been abridged. I should have.
I was really appreciative because the fights in this one were more in depth, unlike the Tekken ones. It felt like they were more animated. There was more to it. It felt like there was more stakes rather than just you get punched once and then congratulations, the fight's over.
Chun-Li Balrog fight was my favorite.
Mine too, and it's not just because of the very choice of shots that they did on it.
You mean because you keep seeing Chun-Li's underwear?
Yes, that is exactly what I mean.
I mean, it was. I just thought it was really well animated, and like the quality of some parts is I mean, I studied animation, so I noticed a jump in quality there compared to the fights before.
Clearly, the animators cared about that fight.
Yeah, it was the important one. I was annoyed at, however, before what happened before that fight, they draw out that section where they show the city, then fade into her showering, then fade back to the city, then fade back to her showering. And they do it like 5 times, and it drags on for so long. Just pick one scene, go with it, end it, go to the next scene. God damn it.
There were too many scenes that it was just taking so long to do anything. That was a main one. But this is, what, an hour and 40 minutes long, and it could have been an hour and a half easy.
I
They were
think,
just
yeah.
stretching it out.
The scenes were just taking forever. The characters would talk. I mean, not talk. Sorry, would pan, and the screen would pan and pan, and we went like 2-3 minutes without any sort of dialogue. And I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, this isn't Dragon Ball Z. They can't just stare at each other and pose.
And when they enter the bunker for the first time, they just basically show you the entire layout of the place, and they just walk and walk and walk, and I'm like, "Oh my god."
And then
Is
they
this
walk
gonna
past some scientists.
Oh my god, and then they finally walked past the bridge. And then finally they reached the throne room. And he sits down, and then I believe even more people came in, and I was like, this is going to be the whole movie. I'm just going to be sitting here for the hour and 40 minutes.
Yes. At that point, I was ready for it to be complete schlock and because it's like a goofy evil lair sequence. They walk in, walk, don't say anything.
I honestly just sped the movie at that point. I thought that I was going to hate the movie. I was like, no, I'm not dealing with these shots, especially because it wasn't the first one either. Like, it had already been done a couple of times already. If it was just like, them introducing the villains in an interesting and like, oh, look at how cool and how big the layer is, fine. But it's just that there was like tons of shots of just panning and then more panning. And then eventually reached the layer, and I was like, okay, I'm done. This is the breaking point. I'm done.
I just wanted them to repeat some of the shots.
Yeah, it was all freshly animated. They didn't just walk past the same utilities door 4 or 5 times.
And then another walkway, and then another door, and then another walkway. I just wanted that to happen.
On the subject of that throne room, later in the movie, M. Bison's talking to the scientist, and he says, "Right, I've had enough of this." He turns around, a chair backs away from the desk, and he gets up. And then the scientist says, "Oh, but we've been recording some of the interrogation with Cammy." So he sits down. So he watches that, and then we have to see him reverse out of away from the desk, and then get back up out of the chair again.
This is how it would look if movies were portrayed realistically, and that really is how we move. Like, realistically speaking, you get up, someone tells you something, you're like, okay, you can sit back down. So I now know that would not make for a good movie.
I thought in that scene, M. Bison was in a plane or something, and he was talking to the scientist, and he said, "We have that footage," and then he says, "I'm on my way, show me," something like that. I didn't get that the first time. Like, I had to, watch the whole thing again, but I think that is what happened. Am I crazy? Am I making this up? Or was he actually in the same room the whole thing? Like,
I thought he was in the same room.
I mean,
Maybe I blinked at the wrong moment.
to be fair, all the shots of the evil guys' environments look the same. Like, I couldn't tell if they were in the same place all the time or they were at different places. One time I could tell because Mike Tyson, I mean M. Bison, I mean Balrog, I mean, is that right?
Yes.
Balrog was wearing a tuxedo or something. So then I knew he was in a different place, but it was still fucking dark.
Yes, this movie was very dark.
In more ways than one.
I honestly didn't notice that the movie was too dark. That completely went over my head. It looked fine to me.
Well, it was nighttime most of the time, or it was raining, and lightning now and then.
When it was outside, they were fine, but when they were in evil lairs and evil guys were in the thing, it was super dark, I thought.
Oh, actually, back to the throne room. I've just remembered one of my notes. M. Bison, the guy in charge, Vega, whatever they call him, asks, "Do you want to have some fun?" to the guy in the mask, while the camera on his computer screen is looking at Chun-Li's crotch.
Oh no.
No, I think it was on her tits first and then went down.
It scrolls down her body and it goes to her crotch, and then the camera goes to behind it, over the guy's shoulder, looking at the screen, and it pans back up, but it's still hovering around her crotch when he's saying, "Do you want to have some fun?" And it's like, yeah.
Honestly, I didn't even notice that. That's horrible.
I don't know. I mean, that camera movement was a bit distracting to me. It wasn't very smooth.
Oh yeah, it was the smoothness that distracted you. Yeah.
No, it was just very awkward. Not only because what they were looking at and talking about, there were pauses in dialogue and reaction shot of Vega's face, and he has a mask, so whatever.
Can't react if you're wearing a mask.
It was when it cut to them watching the footage or whatever. It was just really awkward, and in general, cut that out. Don't show it.
Well, once Chun-Li gets almost killed by mask guy, whatever his name is.
Barlog.
Or Vega, or whatever it is. Chun-Li's in hospital, and, well, earlier in the movie, we see Ryu accidentally knock into a kid who drops a jug of milk, and the milk evaporates onto the path in a way that I didn't realize milk would. And then when Chun-Li's in hospital later, her IV is full of milk, because it looks exactly the same as the jug did.
Nice.
I think it was just water. It was just
probably was,
water.
but it was very milky water. It was yellow.
But again, milk doesn't evaporate like it did, so it's not milk. They established it. They established how water in the universe works, so you knew when you saw that IV that was water and not milk.
Or it was antibiotics in the jug.
The more likely case scenario.
It all makes sense because medicine for her mother. She just
Actually,
went. She just went to the chemist and showed the jug. Can you fill it with antibiotics for me? Here's $50.
I mean, she got change out of it.
In that scene where they're in the hospital, I noticed that. So Giles is how you pronounce his name. I'm so sorry.
Guile, yeah.
He tells Chun-Li, he's like, "I will avenge you, and I will avenge your parents with my bare hands," or something like that. And he just flexes his muscle, and it just zooms in on his bicep, and it just show every 50 muscles in the bicep, and they're like, "Yes."
Yeah, that was very, very Guile moment.
Showing off to someone who's in a coma.
Yeah, I just found it really interesting because he's actually surprisingly sweet throughout most of the movie. Most, because, well, he's kind of a dick, and he's kind of mean to Chun-Li at the beginning. Rightly so, of course. But then afterwards, he's just this weird, uncomfortable thing where he's just looking at her in the bed, and he's like, "I will avenge you with these muscles of mine." They did the same later on, where they're showing Ryu. I don't remember in what exact scene this was, but it's one of those really slow panning shots in which they show you Ryu's basically the entirety of his 600 muscles in his body, just slowly panning through his arm, and they slowly pan through his stomach, and they pan his arm again. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then again, when Kenny, well, they don't show the muscles, but it was nice to see that it wasn't only the women being over-sexualized here, because when he's fighting who's Vega, he fights him, and he returns the Hadouken to Ken and just completely rips off his whole clothes. And I was like, well, I'm glad it's not only the sexualizing on the women, at least.
You say women, but we see
fair.
Kenny for 30 seconds.
It is only one woman.
That was amazing, by the way.
But I did appreciate the fact that it wasn't just on Chun-Li, but it was also on Ken as well.
Yes.
Yeah, Street Fighter was always pretty good about that. Men with muscles. I mean,
A lot of muscles. They basically look like Super Saiyan 2.
So throughout the movie, we see these cyborgs. I mean, one gets its head kicked off, and it's just a robot. So is it? It's not a cyborg. Cyborg is part human, but anime, whatever. They're called cyborgs, androids, and androids cyborgs. I don't care.
No one knows anymore.
So these cyborgs are going around and scanning strong fighters so that Shadow Law can indoctrinate them and use them for question mark reasons. And it comes up with height, weight, blood type, etc. Did you notice when it scanned Chun-Li, it said weight unknown?
I did not.
kind. I don't know. You don't talk about ladies' weight.
Well, it's better that than just making her like obscenely skinny, like 30 pounds. I was like, wow, really?
Well, her thighs are like made of rock. I'm referring to the video games where her legs are humongous.
I would expect nothing less than you to notice that, Gorz.
I think everyone noticed. She kicks a lot.
Well, we're on the topic of anime just, confusing everything. Is Vega's power because he's a psychopath? Because at this point, everyone just keeps saying, oh, like I'm immune because of my psycho power. I'm like, psycho power? Don't you mean psychic? And they just keep going, psycho power, psycho power. I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like at this point, it's just a superpower all psychopaths that get diagnosed just apparently get to unlock.
I believe it's called that like in the game manual or something. So that's in game it's known as his psycho power, but it is a psychic power, and just in Japanese media, psychic powers are the ultimate powers. They can do anything, be anything.
It's just weird to me because at this point, I didn't know what Vega's superpowers were. Like, he was capable of becoming invisible and teleporting, but he could return Hadoukens. He was capable of just unclothing Ken on spot. I was like, what? And what is he gonna do next? At this point, what does the psycho power length just extend to?
Why did he even need other people when he has these super powerful psycho?
I know, like he had to disable it to fight Ryu and Ken, who might I add, according to the cyborg things, their power. They said that karate masters would have a power level of like 2,000. I was like, okay, fair. And then Ryu gets 3,600, which is almost double. And somehow he fights two of them without his psychic powers. I was like, why do you need this organization again?
I mean, it's pretty vague in the games anyway. Because I mean, he's a huge guy, and he's super strong. Like I think in some games he was a boss. He's just evil. I think he's not the best defined character ever in any Street Fighter media. I think he's just evil, and he has an evil organization, and he's kind of like Emperor Palpatine. He's just reveling in being evil.
My only problem with him was the fact that he quote unquote fights Guile, doesn't get hit at all, and then knocks Guile down a mountain, follows him down, and when he reaches the bottom, his cape's torn.
Wait a minute. It was the trees, of course. Of course.
Might as well ask, was this a good adaptation?
Yes. I like a lot that there's a lot of fighting. If Vega, who I know to be Vega, is actually a final boss, I think it's pretty, clever to have him in the end fighting, sure, two people. I like that. And it really did have a lot of cool fighting sequences that I appreciated in comparison to Tekken's, lackluster fighting scenes.
Goes?
Yeah, I think it was a good adaptation. A bit long, like he could cut a lot of the stuff, and
Mostly the panning.
Yeah, and like some fight scenes too, like they go on for too long, and they're not animated as well as the other ones. Yeah, and the scene where Ryu and Fei Long are walking and talking, and then randomly Ryu just splits away without saying anything beforehand.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like, you just had a conversation. What are you doing? Are you just going back on your journey? And then I questioned also that Ryu didn't have his bag, his signature bag, that he always carries with him in that scene. Like, where's your shit? What are you doing?
He also didn't have it when he was free climbing up that mountain. And then, like, in the next scene, he had it.
I mean, he might have left it at E-Honda's, I guess.
Oh, that's true.
I was surprised that they brought E-Honda back. He never did his flying headbutt move, though.
He kind of did it. He did a headbutt, but we didn't see if his feet were still on the floor.
I was just waiting for E-Honda to shoot out when Vegas and Bison's helicopter plane thing showed up. I just waited for E-Honda to shoot out from the ground and just go right through it.
That would have been great.
Because he's so huge and muscly too, man. He can shoot himself out. Like, imagine the force that he could generate. He could totally go right through the plane thing. That would have been amazing.
My answer to was this a good adaptation? Yes, of course. It was actually so good that that Capcom created the Street Fighter Alpha series so they could flesh out the characters some more.
That's really interesting. And what happened with that? Anything come of it?
Well, they had 3 games, and those used various elements, such as changing the guy with the mask's hair color because it was originally brown. They changed it to blonde. They showed that aircraft that the main bad guy had.
Main bad guy.
Well, I don't want to say the wrong name to our Japanese audience or to our English-speaking audience.
That's fair.
Actually, I remember mid podcast, but I got to say, in fighting game community, to make it easier, they just refer to those characters as the dictator, the claw, and the boxer to avoid confusion between Japanese and English players.
I love how there's an in-community fix for this problem.
Yeah.
Fan patch.
And I mean, it works. The dictator, you know who that is. He's dictating.
It's power vague. The dictator.
Like Bison.
Okay, let's wrap things up with what did everyone think? Was it a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or a meh? Artura.
I think it was a thumbs up for me.
Okay, it goes.
I kind of want to go with the meh because of all the padding and it drags, awkward poses, awkward jumps, stuff like that. But I feel like it didn't. I mean, there's still a lot of great stuff about it, so I'll go with thumbs up.
Okay, I will also give it a thumbs up. That makes it the second thing where we've reached a consensus. First one was Animal Crossing.
Yeah, little Japanese kids will enjoy this one too. Like Animal Crossing.
That is how we should rate everything at this point.
They will really enjoy Chun-Li's nude scene. Yes.
Oh, they will get their eyes covered at that point. They need an adult to watch that scene.
They'll just stay on the city shot.
Yeah. It's probably why the city shot was there in the first place for the PG-rated version. They would just keep it on the street.
Actually, the nude scene was not in the original Japanese release. It was in the original Western release, and then it was in later Japanese re-releases.
So little Japanese kids can still enjoy this movie.
They could in the past. Now they can't anymore. We ruined a cartoon for them because we wanted to see Chun-Li's ass.
And breasts.
Yeah. At this
Mostly the ass.
Okay, well, thank you for joining me, you two.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to the Pals Anime Lounge, and better yet, thank you for subscribing wherever you found this episode. You can find more from us on GameGrin.com, finding us on social media, or listening to the Grincast podcast. And until next time, game on.